Okay, hi, this is Richard Hooke again. We had a little trouble there because nobody to assist me, so we'll do this in a second video. I wanted to show you this children's book that was printed by a New York publishing house in 1964. It's called "Once There Was a President," and it's just kind of interesting. This was after the assassination, shortly, and it shows the extent they went to brainwash the people about the assassination, and to try and convince people that it was a lone nut, Lee Oswald, that did it. So I'm just going to show you just a small portion of it here. I'll read it to you. This is in honor of Bill Wesley Fraser, who liked to read children's books in the basement of the TSBD at lunchtime. So we're going to read a children's book here just a little bit in honor of TSBD employee Bill Wesley Fraser. So here we go. Just a little bit, not the whole thing, okay? But here we go. It says, before he was president of the United States, he was a senator. Okay. He wrote an award-winning book at that time called Profiles in Courage, in which he said, a man does what he must in spite of personal consequences, in spite of obstacles and dangers and pressures, and that is the basis of all human morality. In his first speech on becoming president of the United States, he said, and so, my fellow Americans, ask not what you can do for what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Some very great words there from President Kennedy. He was sworn in there, a picture of the swearing in ceremony, and one of the main guys behind his assassination, right behind him, Lyndon Johnson. So that's kind of interesting. So here we are. Because President Kennedy was brave and strong and fair, people everywhere loved and admired him. And here we have him arriving at Love Field with Jackie Kennedy at Love Field. And here we have a picture of the TSBD on November 22nd, 1963. Okay? And here it says right here, because President Kennedy was brave and strong and fair, people everywhere loved and admired him. But one man did not. This man was bitter and unhappy and mentally ill. He hid with a rifle up in a building in a city President Kennedy was visiting. And now see, we now know Lee Oswald, he was not mentally ill at all, okay? And at the time of the shooting, he wasn't even in the window. But anyway, it says, and it has a picture of him turning on from Maine onto Houston here. And it says, as our president rode by in an open car through cheering crowds that lined the streets, the man who was filled with hate shot and killed President Kennedy. Just matter of fact, like what the one guy did it. Now, my research tells me that Oswald definitely fired no shots at all, didn't shoot at President Kennedy or J.D. Tippit. It's all a lie. It was U.S. government hit teams, at least 6 of them around the plaza. And here they're telling our children in 64, a New York publishing house, that it was one man filled with hate shot and killed President Kennedy. I mean, I've never seen such bullshit in my life. I mean, I was 8 years old, and these are the books they were floating out there for us in 64. Okay? America and all the world was sad. Flags were lowered to half-mast on the White House, on all public buildings, on schools, and everywhere. An honor guard of men from the Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, and Air Force carried the flag-draped casket up the steps of the Capitol buildings, where hundreds of thousands of Americans later came to pay their last respects. The President of France, the Queen of Greece, the King of Belgium, and the Emperor of Ethiopia were among the famous leaders of many countries who came to President Kennedy's funeral. A funeral that boys and girls watched with their mothers and fathers on television. There it is, folks, television, okay? That evil box. Behind the horse-drawn caisson they saw the riderless horse, symbol of a fallen leader with its empty saddle and reversed cavalry boots in the stirrups. Okay, well, I just thought I'd share that with you. I think you get the picture. Thanks for listening.